What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. My name is Lucas Wencl, and today we're talking about 10 players that you can look to drop after week 3 of fantasy football to make all those waiver wire ads before week 4. We're going to be talking about guys in deeper leagues, shallow leagues, but before we dive on into that list of players, if you want a chance at winning a signed Devonta Smith Eagles helmet for free, courtesy of our friends at pristineauction.com, all you need to do is head to fantasypros.com/contest, complete the form, and either download the Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard app, leave a review for the podcast, or follow us on X, Instagram, or TikTok at Fantasy Pros. The more actions you complete, the more entries you're going to receive. We'll be announcing a winner right here on the podcast, so if you're watching over on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to come claim your prize when we announce it. Our first cut candidate this week is New England Patriots wide receiver Jalen Polk. Some thought we'd start to see more of Polk in week 3 after catching a touchdown in week 2, but it was unfortunately more of the same. He finished behind both KJ Osborne and Demario Douglas in snaps, and Douglas had the hot potato for the Patriots this week, drawing 9 targets. Polk hasn't drawn more than 3 targets in a game this year, nor generated more than 13 yards. As I mentioned prior to week 2, as long as Jacoby Brissett is under center for the Patriots offense, who hasn't thrown for more than 149 yards this year, the upside is severely capped for the rookie out of Washington. There's other wide receivers on better offenses with higher upside on the waiver wire, so you can cut your ties with Polk until the Patriots prove they can be a competent passing offense. The second player on our list is Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. I was a huge fan of AD Mitchell and his potential upside coming out of Texas, but I'm afraid it's time to throw in the towel. Josh Downs' return to action came at the expense of Mitchell. His snaps plummeted in week 3, playing only 7 of 56 potential snaps per PFF's Nathan Yonke. That was behind Ashton Dulin, who he had been playing ahead of previously. It also doesn't help that Anthony Richardson has been one of the worst passing quarterbacks in the league this year, and that when he has connected on a deep ball, it's been with Alec Pierce, who has had an unprecedented resurgence. As long as Josh Downs is commanding a 31% target rate from the slot, and Alec Pierce is Shane Steichen's preferred field stretcher, AD Mitchell doesn't hold much value and can find his way to the waiver wire in your league. The next player you can look to dump this week is Colby Parkinson, tight end for the Los Angeles Rams. Without Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, there's been ample opportunity for Parkinson to command a larger piece of the passing pie in this Rams offense. That hasn't been the case though, as while he was on the field for 100% of the team snaps in week 3, he still only caught 3 of his 5 targets for 21 yards. Sean McVay is simply going down the pecking order of weapons he believes in, and Kyren Williams is next on that list as he was given 26 opportunities in their win against the 49ers. If that's how this offense is going to grind out wins while plagued with the injury bug, that's great, but it's not great for the potential upside of Colby Parkinson. And even with how desolate tight ends have been this year, he can be dropped in most league formats. Another tight end you can send to the waiver wire is Taysom Hill of the New Orleans Saints. There was optimism that the Saints' Swiss Army knife would play a more fantasy-relevant role under Clint Kubiak this year, but it just hasn't come to fruition thus far. He's had 10 touches through the first 2 weeks of the season, but then missed their week 3 showdown with the Eagles as he's dealing with a bruised lung. Jay Glazer had mentioned Hill was still experiencing difficulty breathing due to the injury, and the reality the Saints likely realize is that it may take Taysom some additional time to heal. We all know the cheat code potential he possesses being eligible for both quarterback and tight end in your fantasy leagues, but unless your league has multiple IR spots where he can be stashed away, you can feel free to drop him in all league formats until he's fully recovered. Our first running back on this week's drop list is Trey Benson of the Arizona Cardinals. Before you yell at me that he's one of the most valuable handcuff stashes behind an often injured James Conner, let's quick assess reality. In 2 out of the first 3 weeks, Benson has been out-snapped by Amari DeMercado, and the only week he wasn't was in week 2 when they stomped the Rams and gave Benson some more run. Even in that game though, Benson rushed for only 10 yards on 11 carries. He didn't even average a yard per carry against a Rams defense that has given up the second most rushing yards to backs this year. If anything were to happen to James Conner, I don't think it's Trey Benson who's just given the workload. We'd likely see a committee between him and Amari DeMercado, so if you're in the deepest of leagues and want to continue to stash him, that's fine, but in almost every other league format, Benson can be dropped to the waiver wire without much consequence. Another Los Angeles Ram you can look to drop this week is wide receiver Demarcus Robinson. Just like Colby Parkinson, Demarcus Robinson has had ample opportunity to receive a larger target share in the absence of Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. He's still playing the most snaps and running the most routes for this Rams offense, but tied with Tyler Johnson receiving 4 targets on the week, which was behind both Tutu Atwell and Colby Parkinson, who received 5 targets. Stafford is sharing the sugar with all of the receivers at his disposal, and he'll likely be playing wide receiver roulette with this team going forward. As much as I like Demarcus Robinson alongside Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua in 11 personnel, he's just not an alpha wide receiver one that we should expect to command 7 to 8 plus targets in their absence. In deeper leagues, you can feel free to hold on to him until Stafford's top 2 weapons return, but in 12-man leagues or less, you can scavenge the waiver wire for other options. Unless you're in a 2-quarterback league and are desperate, Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers can be dropped ahead of week 4. Maybe the Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman offensive hyperbole should have been taken a bit more literally this offseason. The Chargers have the 5th highest run play percentage in the league this year, and it's clearly impacting Herbert's fantasy value. Through 3 weeks, Herbert hasn't thrown for more than 144 yards in a game and hasn't finished higher than the quarterback 24 on a given week. Not to mention, he left the game early on Sunday after appearing to aggravate his high ankle sprain that he was dealing with prior to the season. The x-rays came back negative on Monday morning, but I'm not too interested in rostering a quarterback who's dealing with an injury that hampers his mobility upside in an offense that isn't utilizing his arm in the first place. Again, in a 2-quarterback or superflex league, you probably aren't dropping Herbert. But if you're in a single quarterback league and keeping him as a second quarterback on your bench, there's no reason to, and he's just a roster clog through the first 3 weeks. Another Los Angeles Charger you can look to dump is running back Gus Edwards. Through the first 2 weeks, it was a 50-50 timeshare between the Gus Bus and J.K. Dobbins. However, that changed in week 3. Dobbins dominated both snap share and touches, playing 30 of 46 possible snaps and earning 15 rush attempts. Gus came in for relief on the other 16 snaps, but was only given 3 totes on the afternoon. That aside, Gus has been a big letdown to start the season. He's had less than 30 rushing yards in 2 of the first 3 games and hasn't found the end zone. His best weekly finish this year is running back 41, with his other 2 finishes being the running back 50 and the running back 58. In deeper leagues, you likely will be holding on to Gus, but in shallower leagues, Gus can be sent to the waiver wire as long as he's playing second fiddle to J.K. Dobbins. Our 3rd tight end you can send to the waiver wire this week is Dalton Shultz of the Houston Texans. Here's the reality with Dalton Shultz. Why would you feed him more opportunities when you have debatably the best wide receiver trio in the league? You can look at the box score and see that Shultz drew a season-high 5 targets on Sunday, but it's only 5 targets in a game they didn't lead in for a single second. Shultz is currently the tight end 28 in PPR formats, yet is still rostered in 72% of Yahoo leagues. Again, I know how terrible the tight end landscape has been this year, but you can do much, much better than the clear 4th option in this Houston passing game on the waiver wire, and if you're stashing him as a backup tight end in a shallow league, just don't. He's just clocking your roster when there's other higher upside pieces you can have instead. Our last cut candidate this week is running back Ezekiel Elliott of the Dallas Cowboys. Just as we anticipated going into the season, the Dallas Cowboys are having a difficult time running the football. The Cowboys have totaled the 4th fewest rushing yards in the league this year, averaging only 3.6 yards per carry, which is tied for the 4th worst. To make matters worse for the seasoned vet, Rico Dowdle is taking more opportunity from him by the week. Dowdle played 22 more snaps than Zeke in week 3 while being given 13 opportunities to Zeke's 5. After a top 24 finish in week 1, it might already be over for Zeke, and considering he's still rostered in 67% of Yahoo leagues, that percentage should plummet ahead of week 4 as he'll be stuck in an inefficient committee for the rest of the year. Alrighty y'all, that's it. That's all I got for you today. But before we sign off here, remember, if you want a chance at winning a signed Devonta Smith Eagles helmet for free, courtesy of our friends at pristineauction.com, all you need to do is head to fantasypros.com/contest, complete the form, and either download the Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard app, leave a review for the podcast, or follow us on X, Instagram, or TikTok at FantasyPros. The more actions you complete, the more entries you're going to receive. We'll be announcing a winner right here on the podcast, so if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to come claim your prize when we announce it.